think we shall get started now. I think most people are in, so thank you for getting in nice and early, everyone. So on behalf of the Ontario Association of Fire Educators and the NFPA, good morning and welcome to the Fire Prevention Week webinar. So the webinar will run from now until 11 o'clock. And with Fire Prevention Week just around the corner, it can be the department's busiest time of the year. And I'm guessing there will be a variety of community engagements, either face-to-face interactions, visual, or both, depending on your municipality's direction. So whether you have completed your preparation and planning in the middle of it, or still looking for some good ideas, today's webinar will give you some information, guidance, suggestions, ideas on activities to implement during Fire Prevention Week. Or, as some municipalities, spread Fire Prevention Week throughout the whole month. So on behalf of the Ontario Association of Fire Educators, I want you to enjoy today's session in the hopes you can take away and use all the great information you will learn today. So my name is Gillian Boyd. I'm a member of the Ontario Association of Fire Educators, along with Sharon Goodward, who is working the communications and the technical side today. So other members of the OAFE are not able to join us, but a new member, Donna Nulls, played a big part in today's session and organizing the event. So thank you to Donna. So before I introduce our speaker, a few housekeeping rules. Please remember to mute when not speaking to cut down on the background noise and be courtesy to the speaker. When not speaking, use the icons when required. We encourage you to use the chat function, and I know that there's some interaction throughout Laura's presentation this morning. There's also a feedback form which will be placed in the chat. You can look for that. If you can open it and complete it, that would be greatly appreciated. Also in the chat, Shannon will be putting in a link for you to complete in order to receive the certificate for this learning session. Note, you must complete the evaluation form in order to receive your certificate. So thanks everyone for your attention to that. Are there any questions before we get started? So let's just go to the chat, see if anyone has put anything in the chat. I'll leave that question open for a few seconds. And hearing none, we will continue. So the chat and the survey is already in the chat for you to take a look at. So I'd now like to introduce our speaker today, who is Laura King, who is the National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA representative for Canada, helping departments build fire and life safety programs. So please welcome Laura to the floor.
Good morning. Thanks very much, Jillian, and thanks, Shannon, for always being our technical backup person. We appreciate that very much, and always my chat person when we're waiting for all this to happen. And thanks to Donna for getting things organized. She did a fantastic job, and welcome, Donna, to the executive of the OAFE. So I'm just scrolling the participants list here. So nice to see all of you and so many of you. So that's fantastic. Appreciate you joining us this morning. I'm going to try to keep this moving along. There are tons of resources I want you to see because there are resources for so many different groups. Of course, those identified target audiences that you have determined through your community risk assessments and your community risk reduction plans. And of course, we all just like to do Fire Prevention Week anyway and take advantage of all the tools and tips and tricks that we can to reach our audiences. This year is going to be just as different as last year because we don't know, the opportunity, whether the opportunity exists in many cases for in-person visits. So it may be a combination of in-person, virtual, may be all virtual, whatever. We're going to provide you with a load of resources and materials, and then some suggestions on how to make your programs digital or at least get a start on that. So We're going to talk about the theme for our 2021 Fire Prevention Week. But first, I have some questions for you guys. So I was trying to figure out the easiest way to do this. And I think what I'm going to do, because you guys are all used to being in front of audiences, is the reason I was scrolling through the participants list was to find out who's here and then find people to pick on. So I'm going to start with some questions. And for simplicity's sake, rather than have everybody turn on their microphones and try to talk at once, or everybody try to type in the chat, which will just make the chat really long, I'm going to choose some people to answer some of these questions. So I'll just give you some context. We're doing this in all of our presentations across the country and across the states because we're trying to get a really good handle on whether people do understand or don't understand the sounds of the sounds of fire safety. You guys are an extremely educated bunch of people, so you should get all of these answers. But I will tell you that last night, doing this with a very different group, that wasn't the case, and it was quite surprising, actually. So do you know the sounds of fire safety? Of course you do. So the sound of an activated smoke alarm is what, Gary Pike? I know you're there, and if you're paying attention, you can turn on your microphone, you can even turn on your camera and tell us what the sound of an activated smoke alarm is.
Good morning, Laura. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for picking on me first, Laura. Happy to be here, and thanks for having everybody this morning. An activated smoke alarm is going to make a beeping sound. So yeah, we'd be at our events. We're going to make sure that we have functioning smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, so we can identify what that sounds like when the device is in alarm.
Very good, Gary, an A+. However, supplementary question. Can you tell me more specifically what sound an activated smoke alarm makes? If you were in front of a group of children and you were trying to explain it, what would you do other than having it in your hand and making it make the sound?
Okay, so if it wasn't in my hand, it would sound like it'd be 3 beeps, beep, 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 and kind of make the sound myself, but a little bit louder than that. Get down to their level, make sure I was connecting with them, just visually, eye to eye, and yeah, just remind them that it beeps 3 times, and we know that CO is going to beep 4 times. And some of the newer devices might
answers to the next question. Sorry, Gary. Okay, that's great. Thanks. So what happens after those 3 beeps?
After those 3 beeps, we need to implement our home escape plan. Understand what the emergency is and implement a rehearsed and practiced home escape plan.
We do. Okay, so here's what I was going for. That's all perfect. Thank you very much. And I was going to apologize for putting you on the spot, but I don't. It's all part of the fun, right? So the sound of an activated smoke alarm is a beep, 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 pause, right? Beep, 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 pause, right? You're all familiar with that. So thanks, Gary, for walking us down that road. All right, appreciate it. The next question, the sound of an activated CO alarm, which if you were listening, Gary just sort of gave away. So let's try Shelley Langer. Shelley, what is the sound of an activated CO alarm?
So that would be 4 beeps, beep, 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 and then a pause.
Good job. Thank you very much. A++. And 4 beeps that are quick, 4 quick beeps. Beep, 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 beep. It's a faster sound than the sound of the smoke alarm's 3 beeps, right? So excellent work, Shelley. Gold star. The sound of a smoke or CO alarm with a low battery is what? Rick Finnemore, are you there? Sometimes
yep, I'm here.
Sometimes the OFM people just lurk, right? So
yeah, we lurk.
The sound of it.
I'll be honest, I've never had one of my smoke alarm or my smoke or carbon alarms have a low battery. I don't.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
I don't know if I know what that sound would be.
Okay, so there you go, right? So that just shows us that what we think, and we think everybody knows everything, but not necessarily the case. So I will pass on you, Rick. Thank you for letting me put you on the spot because I'm going to find someone who can do that for us. Mark Berger. Mark Berger, you there?
Morning, Laura. Yeah, I'm here.
Good morning.
So,
Mark.
Good on you, Rick, for not knowing what that sound is. It means you're keeping your alarm.
That's right. Exactly. Good point to make. Thank you. And I should have done that. So do you know what the sound of a smoke or CO alarm with a low battery is?
So generally a smoke or CO alarm with a low battery will have a single beep followed by a 30-second pause. But I'd also preface that for an older group to make sure that they know that they should be reading the manual on their seer smoke alarm, because that is not always consistent across the board.
Very good. Good point. So we're calling it a chirp so that we can differentiate between the beeps and the chirps. So it is a really quick, slightly higher pitched sound generally than the beep. So I have the sounds. I'll play them for you shortly. Thanks very much, Mark. Excellent. And then next question, the sound of a smoker CO alarm at the end of its life. Kind of a trick question. Kaylee Hooter, are you there? Kaylee, you knew I would pick on you as a travel companion.
Morning, Laura. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks.
Good. So yeah, end of life is kind of the same chirping sound that you have as a low battery.
Absolutely, it is. It is. And then stay there, Kaylee, for a moment, if you would. So bonus question that I don't have on the slide there. How do you tell if the alarm needs a new battery or is at the end of its life if the sound is exactly the same?
So you could look at the manufacturing date. So generally we tell people as a general rule of thumb, smoke alarms are good for about 10 years from manufacturing, and then the CO alarms roughly 7 years from the date they're activated. So again, you can look on the back, or there'll be a sticker on the side of the alarm that will show you the expiry date of an alarm.
Exactly. And then if you replace the battery and the alarm continues to chirp, that's usually a good sign that it wasn't the battery. And in fact, it is the alarm that needs to be replaced. So that's all. Thank you very much, Kaylee. So that's a lot of information that we just put forward that's really hard to put on a social media card or on some other short form of communication. So much so that I went and pulled out of the wall, pulled out of my drawer some of my smoke alarms that I travel with and use to show folks, of course. And I mean, all this information is on the back of the alarm, but when it's on the ceiling, that's really hard to read. And then with the issue, and of course, I've blown that up like 20 times because it's in 1-point font. And then on the back, you get the information about what to do when it's at the end of life and won't stop chirping. You remember Phoebe on Friends pounding the life out of the alarm with a hammer because it wouldn't stop. But this is really difficult to follow, and it's really, really challenging to turn it off. You got to stick a knife in here and disable the switch and whatnot. So they don't make it easy. We work with the alarm companies, the alarm manufacturers, but they don't make it easy. It's tricky and it's confusing for people, and it's complex, and the sounds are confusing. And all of this requires adults to read the directions, which you guys have mentioned. And actually, I'll just show you again, pulled this out a couple of days ago as I was working on these presentations. Look at the length of the directions, right? This is just for one of these kid alarms, right? Doesn't matter, first alert, whatever it is. Who is going to read that, really? And particularly, sorry guys, particularly if you're a man, probably not going to happen unless you're fire people like we all are. But anyway, sorry, had to go there. So anyway, you will see on this alarm on the right, there's the process to follow when the alarm is at the end of life, but it's tiny print. It's really difficult to make the alarm stop. This has happened to me 4 times in the last year, where either smoke alarms have gone off for no reason and I couldn't stop them, or the chirping has gone on for no reason and I couldn't stop them. The alarms were new, they weren't old, they didn't need to be replaced, the batteries didn't need to be replaced, so they will fail, and that causes people to get frustrated, take the alarms down, put them away, and that's why we need to teach these lessons about learning the sounds of fire safety. So that brings us back to the theme for 2021. Thank you for your participation and indulging me. So the theme, of course, is learn the sounds of fire safety. And it's all available in English. Some of the materials are available in French, so all of the theme material is available in French and Spanish, of course, and then a lot of the resources come in other languages that can help you in your communities depending on your demographics, right? So usually the Fire Prevention Week theme is born of brainstorming. My colleagues in the public education and education divisions at NFPA, we all look at data and trends to determine areas in which we need to focus. Pardon me, you guys are familiar with all this, no 2 ways out, look, listen, learn, serve up fire safety in the kitchen. This year, the process was a bit different. So when COVID restrictions were introduced in early 2020, such a long time ago now, and virtual learning began, NFPA and fire departments, we started hearing from teachers who, of course, are familiar with Learn Not to Burn and with NFPA's sparkyschoolhouse.org website, and they know the sounds of fire safety. Absolutely, they do. But during Zoom sessions or Google Classrooms, teachers were hearing chirping smoke alarms in the background in students' homes, and they were hearing them the next day and they were hearing them the next week. And then of course they did something about it, right? So we at NFPA and fire and life safety educators across North America, we already knew that the sounds of the smoke and CO alarms were confusing for so many people. But this became even more clear over the last 18 months. And it also became clear that oftentimes families didn't know what to do about the chirp, or worse, they chose to ignore it. So the 2021 Fire Prevention Week theme, was just a no-brainer. We needed to focus on the sounds of the smoke and CO alarms and knowing what to do when the alarm sounds. So it was a lot of fun to work on the campaign, and I'm very pleased that they used some of my slogans and suggestions for social media cards and for the theme and for the calls to action. So we'll see those in just a moment. So just a bit of background on how this all happened. This story from the Washington Post is from March of 2020. So really, when all of this started, when the restrictions started and virtual learning just began. And I know that the headline says detectors. You can chalk that up to editors and reporters rather than the fire department, and really makes no difference in this context, right? And now the firefighters are helping to fix them, and this is a fire chief in Northwest, I believe, Washington. So I'm going to show you this really not sexy slide that is part of the story that was in the paper that day in September 2020, and it was the principal at a school in Northwest Washington who contacted the fire department after teachers started hearing the chirping in the background. And the problem seemed to come up again and again. And after that school recognized this and contacted the fire department, lots of others did too. And it was crazy. So the smoke alarms were disrupting classes. And here, smoke alarms were actually going off too in a couple of cases, which we found to be remarkable. But here's the kicker. While the teachers heard it, they heard the chirping, right? The parents and students at the homes seemed so accustomed to the noise that they didn't even notice it. It didn't bother them, and they didn't do anything about it. So this is just flooring to me, right? I mean, if there's a noise in your house, your furnace is rattling a little bit, or the fan's a little bit loose, or whatever it is, it would make you crazy. But a constant chirping that's every 30 seconds would really make me crazy. And I'm just so surprised by that. And I guess I shouldn't be, but I don't go into people's homes probably the way some of you do as fire prevention officers. So hence the call to action from NFPA, the call to action by the fire department. And again, I'll show you the program that the fire department implemented in that community. So we said the theme was a no-brainer, and it came together easily for us, which it did, but we did brainstorm to get the wording and the messages right, and to determine those calls to action, which are simple and effective, and I really like them. So the first call to action, hear the beep or hear a beep, get on your feet. I love that. It's simple, it's effective, it's easy to understand, and it will work really well with people of all ages. So all of our materials reflect that. These are a couple of the social media cards, and that message is in all of the resources. The other, of course, is hear a chirp, make a change. So that was mine, and that's the one I really like too. Hear a chirp, make a change. You have to do something. You can't just let it happen and let it continue to chirp. So this is the tricky one, right? People need to do something when they hear that chirp, but often, as we've seen, they don't know what to do. So the chirp can mean two things, like we talked about, like you guys got correct, right? A low battery or an alarm is at the end of its life. So figuring out the problem can take time. Like I showed you, that small print is difficult to read. People discard the user guide, or they move into a home and they don't have the instructions, and not everyone is inclined, like we are, to look online to learn the particulars of their smoke and CO alarms. People might not have backup batteries, they might not have the means to go get them, they may not be able to afford a replacement alarm. So our goal for Fire Prevention Week 2021 is to provide accurate, effective information and break down those barriers to change. So if you haven't seen it, here's the Fire Prevention Week 2021 launch video, which we love.
This is the sound of construction. This is the sound of nature. This is the sound of education. This is the sound of waking up. This is the sound of fire safety. This is the sound of fire safety. This is the sound of fire safety. Fire, get out. This year's Fire Prevention Week theme is Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety. Get ready to promote this year's theme and work with your community so they too can learn the sounds of fire safety and know what to do to keep themselves, their homes, and their families safe. People need to know when you hear the beep, get on your feet, get to your meeting place and stay out. When you hear the chirp, it's time for a change of batteries or to install a new alarm.
Learn the sounds of fire safety and know what to do.
Aprenda los sonidos de protección contra incendios y sepa qué hacer.
Apprenez les sons de la sécurité incendie et savoir quoi faire.
Please join with NFPA to promote Fire Prevention Week in your community so that everyone can learn the sounds of fire safety and know how to respond. Go to firepreventionweek.org for resources and tools that include more about this year's campaign and support for your efforts. It's a big world. Let's protect it together. Thank you.
You've all heard me say before that it's a big world, let's protect it together, and that I get shivers every time I hear it because I've totally drank the NFPA Kool-Aid. It's true that even that video just makes me so happy. So before we dive into the NFPA resources and our website, some of you may have registered for our Spotlight on Public Education or SOAP conference next Tuesday. And in our Fire Prevention Week session next week that I'm part of, we go deep into smoke and CO alarms with colleagues from UL, from Underwriters Laboratories and other entities and organizations as well. And I want to show you just a snippet of what UL has available to complement the NFPA theme for 2021. So we work very, very closely with UL, and I believe that many of you are familiar with the website and with what they do, but I wanted to show you these specific videos. I think there's 3 of them, they're short, that complement the NFPA theme, and they are free and available for use and download. So Jillian, I'm just gonna go to you. Can you just give me a thumbs up when it plays to make sure, let me know that the audio is good? Not that one, that always happens. Let me see. Okay, sorry, give me 2 seconds here. Sorry, guys. I just plunked these in this morning because they never work if I put them in sooner. So this is just the UL website. Smokealarms.ul.org is where you can go to find out all of this fabulous information and get tons of resources about smoke alarms, again, which all complements this. So they have lots of videos and social media cards, among other things. And you may be aware that they've introduced a cast of characters called the Smoke Alarm Friends, and these friends are dressed as if they are the smoke alarm. So they're kind of live action smoke alarms, and they appear in the videos. So this is just a couple of them, what they look like. And now I will play some of those videos for you. And the first one is not the Smoke Alarm Friends. It is What's the Beep?
Hi, I'm Nessa with UL, and we know you may be wondering, what the beep? You know, what are those loud screeching sounds that come from your smoke alarm when you're cooking, or the chirping sound that only seems to happen at 3 a.m.? You know, it sounds something like this. We test smoke alarms at UL to help ensure they meet the UL standard for safety. Our standards say that smoke alarms must make different noises that mean very different yet important things. These are sounds a smoke alarm makes that you should know. Pay attention because this could save your life. The first sound is the most important one of all, and it can sound like this. This is a sound you hear when there really is smoke or fire. This is a 3-pulse beep, and it repeats over and over. This means get down, get out, and stay out. Your family should plan an escape route and a meeting place, so when this alarm goes off, everyone knows exactly what to do. Keep in mind that sometimes a smoke alarm may go off when you burn the popcorn or are broiling steaks. And if this is the case, please don't be tempted to panic and rip out the batteries, which leaves you and your family at risk if a fire really does break out. Another sound that your smoke alarm makes could be something like this. When you hear this sound, kind of like the chirping of a bird, but it's definitely not a bird. because it means the battery supply is low on your smoke alarm. It may be annoying, but please resist simply removing the batteries. Put in new ones right away to keep your family safe. Be sure to change batteries twice a year and keep your alarm clear of dust so it works properly. UL recommends testing your alarms once a month and pushing the test button like this. Smoke alarms vary a bit, so be sure to read your owner's instructions or look for the manual online if you've misplaced it. Finally, this is a sound you don't want to hear if you do have a fire. The sound of silence. When there's not a fire, of course, that's fine, but silence could be the sound of a non-working smoke alarm with a dead or disconnected battery. And if you move into a new home, test the alarms to be sure they are working. Don't just assume they do. So now you know what the beeps are all about and why it's so important to understand what your smoke alarm is trying to tell you. Thanks for watching.
So that's fairly new and kind of cute. I know that in the first instance when she says this sound, and it sounds more like a beep than a chirp, even though it's supposed to be the chirp. So not positive I love that part of it, but anyway, it's good. The what the beep phrase is nice and catchy and will work with some of your audiences for sure. I'm going to play two more and then I'll just ask Shannon to check the chat and see if we have questions on anything that we've talked about to this point. One of the things, of course, that drives us all nuts is when people remove alarms and because of nuisance, because they go off when people are burning toast or cooking or whatever it is. And you may be aware that UL has done a whole bunch of testing, because that's what they do, and created alarms with sensors that are able, they're called multi-sensor alarms, that are able to tell whether the smoke is from cooking or the smoke is from, you know, a combustible product like a furniture cushion, that type of thing. So the hope here, of course, is that will reduce nuisance alarms and reduce the numbers of people who remove their alarms or take the batteries out, and therefore there'll be more alarms and fewer fires and that result in injury or property damage. So this is the story of the UL, testing situation. And there we go.
Every smoke alarm can detect this, but some smoke alarms think that this is this, which can mean this. And this is not safe. Pulling batteries out of a smoke alarm during cooking leaves your belongings, your home, your pets, and your family unprotected against this.
Statistics show that the risk of dying from a fire is cut in half if homes have working smoke alarms. The issue with removing smoke alarm batteries during cooking is that when a real fire occurs, the home and family is left at risk. It's happened too many times.
UL research led to revisions to smoke alarm standards that manufacturers must meet to certify and label their products as meeting the enhanced standards. One of the elements of the enhanced requirements is to help reduce nuisance alarms. So how do they test to reduce the possibility of smoke alarms going off unnecessarily while dinner's cooking? By cooking hamburgers right in the UL laboratory. Lots and lots of hamburgers. In fact, more than 600 pounds of burgers each year are cooked in the UL lab.
This one test simulates cooking scenarios that can range from toasting bread to stir-fry cooking to broiling steaks.
The burgers are all exactly the same weight, precisely 6 ounces with 25% fat, 75% lean beef.
And then we cook them. We broil them like we do at home. We cook them till they start steaming, sizzling, smoking, and smoking some more and some more.
UL technicians measure how the smoke alarm reacts at various levels of cooking. Conducting this test is a technical process that helps manufacturers better design their product and reduce the likelihood of nuisance alarms during typical kitchen cooking.
It looks like we're just cooking burgers, but we are actually conducting extremely scientific tests that all smoke alarms must abide by. New advancements in technology help reduce nuisance alarms, which means fewer batteries ripped out of smoke alarms during cooking.
Cooking burgers is just one of the many tests they do at UL to ensure the smoke alarms in our homes perform properly.
Because at UL, safety is what it's all about. I think of my kids every time I see that. Every time I say it, it's safety.
So something to talk about and something that's a little bit new, and those multi-sensor alarms are coming to the market. They are available in some places in the US. I haven't seen them yet here, but they're coming. And we know now, we encourage people to install alarms in the correct location, so not directly in the kitchen near the stove and whatnot. But I just wanted to update you on that because I think it's quite cool. And then the third video is the smoke alarm friends. So be prepared. That is the same one. Sorry, does it all the time. There we go. All right.
Well, that's one way to smoke a salmon, Billy. Don't worry. As one of Billy's smoke alarms, we go way back. I used to beep, beep, beep at Billy when he cooked dinner in the past. I know, I was a nuisance. And Billy just shut me up. Use the trifecta. Rag to the face, broom to the gut, and for the finale, ripped from the ceiling and shoved in the kitchen drawer. Really? All to stop me from beeping? Well, I've improved over the years. Unlike his cooking, my new technology helps reduce cooking nuisance alarms. You see, I can now better distinguish between smoke from a fire and smoke from Billy's dreams of becoming the next Iron Chef. Oh, there, Billy. It's important to have good relationships with your smoke alarms, making sure we are in your home and have working batteries. Your smoke alarms are here to protect you. Listen to us. We are your friends. Hug.
More than half of all home fire deaths occur when there are no working smoke alarms. Make sure you have working smoke alarms in your home.
So kind of hokey, but kind of fun, and works with particular audiences, obviously, and not directly related to the theme. The first one is what the beep, but I think very much material and resources that you could use to support the theme. Sorry, that's going to play again. So make it go away. There we go. Okay, Shannon, any questions, or anybody, any questions?
So there are a couple in the chat here, Laura, or directly to us here. So the first one, did ULC provide any type of specific messages for Ontario and Canada?
Do you mean specific sort of resources, like the movie that has, I mean, it's got an American fire chief in it and whatnot. But I think the rest of the video is fine. Otherwise, no, not specifically for Ontario and Canada. They're there for North America wide use, and yeah, not that I'm aware of. Mm-mm.
All right, next question. Which age group is the what the beep aiming at?
Yeah, I don't know well, you know what, everybody's going to take it a different way, right? So I don't think little kids would think what the beep means anything other than what the beep. It's probably aimed at a, let's say 10 to 12, 14-year-old age group, and then adults, right? Not sure that it's necessarily meant for little kids, but you'd have to judge your audience. I don't think there's anything offensive in it for youngsters. Yeah, do you guys want to weigh in on that? It wasn't said. We didn't talk about it last week when I was working with the UL folks, but it's a valid question. I will ask them.
All right, and one other that says that they can wait if you're going to touch on it later, but the question is, I found it a bit ironic in the first video that there was an interpreter for people who are hearing impaired, explaining to them the sounds of fire safety. How do you recommend including deaf or hard of hearing community within this theme?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we are going to touch on it, and we have resources specifically for the deaf and hard and hearing populations. It's a challenge for sure, but what we have learned and what we know from working very, very closely with the deaf and hard and hearing community, and there are people from the deaf and hard of hearing communities and organizations on our EMAC committee, our Educational Messages Advisory Committee, that creates that desk reference that you guys are all so familiar with, I know. So what they have given us advice in that regard, and provided us with the tools to provide the messaging. So the messaging is the same. We want them to know the sounds of fire safety, but the sounds might be different to them. So there are alarms with different frequency sounds. We're encouraging use of bed shakers and whatnot. And not everybody who is hard of hearing in that community will not be able to hear. So we certainly want to make sure that we're providing the accurate information for them. So we will touch on it, and I will show you what we've got shortly. So it's a good question, and we'll get there in 2 or 3 slides actually. So thank you.
All right, and that's, as of right now, the end of the questions that are in here.
Okay, good. Tough questions. You all had your caffeine this morning. Good. I'll go back to UL and get those answers for you. So thanks. Okay, so you realize from all of that and from the some of the earlier conversation we had that there's a lot of education to do. The resources on our firepreventionweek.org page help with all of this. So you can go to nfpa.org/firepreventionweek. That will get you there. You can also go to firepreventionweek.org. That will get you there, or FPW, Fire Prevention Week, fpw.org. So there's all kinds of ways to navigate to the site, and it is a separate site from NFPA.org, but you can get there from NFPA.org by going to public education and hovering your mouse, and Sparky will come up and that'll take you to the page. So all kinds of ways to get there. Bookmark it because you will go there many times over the next several weeks. So you can see that there is an arrow that points to our toolkit, which we'll get to in just a moment, and that's where all the good stuff lives, and also our About page. And on that About page, you'll find information for the general public, so parents, caregivers, daycare providers, teachers, anyone looking for a bit of an overview of Fire Prevention Week. So it used to be that NFPA created all these resources and materials for fire departments to use in their workshops, presentations, open houses, and whatnot. And what we realize and understand through our commitment to community risk reduction is that the fire departments can't reach everybody that they need to. You can't even reach your entire target audience identified through your community risk assessments. You need help, you need partnerships, and partnerships are, of course, the root of community risk reduction, right? So we've provided all kinds of resources for others to use to help you reach a broader audience. So tools that, parents and daycare providers and teachers and community groups and anybody else can use. So most of those live some of those live on the About page and also on the Toolkit page, but the About page gives you that introduction. Sorry, someone's got an open mic. If you could just mute, that would help us. Thank you. Okay, so all of that starts on the About page with the video that we saw, the introductory video, and then a bit of an explanation for consumers. So people who might be going here for the first time and explaining what the campaign is. And then, as someone asked, what if someone in my home is deaf or hard of hearing? So here is your answer right here. There are smoke alarms and alert devices for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, and they include strobes that flash, of course, and pillow or bed shakers designed to work with your smoke alarm can also be purchased and installed. And we have more information on this all over that website. And the reason we got the sign language interpreters, and we have done work, my colleague Meredith Hawes, who's in Michigan, does the same job as I do, and she works very closely with the deaf and hard of hearing community. There are all kinds of videos, and everything we're doing now, it took us a while, but everything we're doing now includes the sign language and interpretation. So we're very proud of that. It took us a while to get there, but I'm glad we're there now. So also on this page, which is our About page, you can see that you can go to the Fire Prevention Week safety tip sheet. We love our safety tip sheets, as you know, and our family action plan, which is available in English and Spanish. We don't have this one in French. Not sure why that's the case, but that just didn't get through the translation process. So we can still do it if there is demand, and I'll be speaking with our New Brunswick folks tomorrow, actually, and there probably will be. So I'll show you what those look like. So this is the new tip sheet. It is a typical NFPA tip sheet that is heavy on text, of course, but this pretty much summarizes everything, the key messages in the theme, right? The key messages that we want you guys and anybody else to get out to people. And remember that all of these messages are based directly on the EMAC messaging, right? We don't just take messages and make them up and stick them on the tip sheets or put them in as part of the theme. They're all supported by science, by research, and they're all from the educational messages document. So that is sort of the first key resource, and you can use that for yourselves actually to help you remember what the messaging is and to be consistent. And it describes the beeps and describes the chirps and those calls to action. Hear a beep, get on your feet, and hear a chirp, make a change. So I like that one. That's quite good and quite succinct, and you can use that in your social. You can print them and put them in the bags. You can hang them up in grocery stores, whatever it is you may want to do, and we'll talk about how to do it virtually as well. And then this is the smoke and CO alarm tip sheet for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, and it does go into some detail. Same principles apply, right? Be aware, do all the things that you can to protect yourself and your family. Make a plan, right? So again, this all done in consultation with the deaf and hard of hearing community. So that is available right on that section of the About page that we just looked at. Okay, so that we've also expanded in the EMAC, I keep calling it the EMAC, that's just habit now. In the desk reference, we've also expanded our messaging for people who are deaf or hard of hearing and who have mobility challenges, and for people with multiple disabilities. So all of that is in the new EMAC, which is on the website, and I'll show it to you shortly as well. So thank you for that question. And I think we are able to provide good answers there for you. Okay, pardon me. Okay. So the other resource is the Family Home Safety Action Plan, which I quite like. It's pretty, it's attractive, it goes very nicely with the theme, and it's a nice exercise that families can do that are short, simple. We suggest the first Saturday of each month, making it Smoke Alarm Saturday, and doing a little project. Pardon me, developing a fire escape plan and practicing it, of course, twice a year. And when you hear a beep, get on your feet, hear a chirp, make the change. So it's something that a family can sit down and have a conversation about in 10, 15 or 20 minutes. And we're able to walk people through what they should know and some of the activities. So again, a new resource and one that I quite like. So then if you are still on the About page, we've of course got our Fire Safety Minute video, which is really applicable to everyone. This one, it's really nice for everybody. There's no specific age group for this one. And the background on Fire Prevention Week, which I'm sure you've all seen, or most of you have seen, and it's a great way to introduce Fire Prevention Week. People know it, but they don't know why, and they are not familiar with the Great Chicago Fire of 1871 and the fact that Fire Prevention Week always includes the date October 9th because that's when the Great Chicago Fire happened. So it is, of course, the oldest public observance in North America. And actually, Fire Prevention Week, I always like to say this, was formally recognized in Canada a year before it was in the United States and made official, even though it started in the States. So we have a little one-up on them. So these are two great ways to introduce Fire Prevention Week to your audiences. So then if you go over to the Toolkit page, if you click here on Toolkit and go over to this page, you will find all of our Fire Prevention Week resources. So this first box that goes across the page, we've used this for a couple of years now and provided you with all of these resources that help you get started. So our out-of-the-box ideas, which I'll show you in a moment. Proclamations are really nice because you can get your mayor or council to declare Fire Prevention Week. They're in there, and the Canadian one is in there, I believe. This should be, better be. I haven't checked in a couple of weeks. And there is a national proclamation. So Fire Prevention Week is declared through Parliament every year, and that happens probably, or the proclamation comes out, I think, the week before, and that's a nice thing to do. And it's also nice to get your mayor and councillors involved. The event flyers I'll show you. Our webinar that our larger group did a few weeks ago, you can click on it here, and it's got some fire prevention, fire and life safety educators, fire prevention officers talking about some of the things that they've done in the past and virtual events. So that may help you. accurate messaging, this takes you to the EMAC, of course. We've got a fundraising letter if you are a small department and you are looking for partnerships and some support for Fire Prevention Week in your community. And of course, press releases in English and French that I know some of you have already downloaded and used. So it's a template, you just fill it in, and it's great to send to your local media and remind them that Fire Prevention Week is coming, what the theme is, and the calls to action. Okay, so that's easy, and you're probably all familiar with that. And this is our amazing out-of-the-box ideas sheet that has grown over the last couple of years. And some of you will recognize these because, let's see, Chalk One Up to Fire Safety, that is from Ontario. Burning Questions, that is from Ontario. Fire Safety Rocks, that is from Ontario. So those are all my contributions, or some of my contributions to this resource that came from the OAFE webinar that we did last November after Fire Prevention Week, after you guys did such an amazing job creating and developing virtual events and activities. So thank you for that. And you'll recognize some of the others as well. And then this one over here, Hear the Chirp, Get to Work. That was the slogan that was used by that Washington Fire Department after schools started reporting the chirps to them. So they distributed Fire Prevention Week material through parent-teacher organizations, churches, businesses, and hosted a community-wide contest to come up with more slogans for the sound of fire safety, et cetera, et cetera. So all kinds of things that you can do. Feel free to request the PowerPoints. Pardon me, I have PowerPoints on most of these that can give you more detail. And of course, I always encourage everyone to embrace TikTok, because that's where you find a good portion of an audience that has been sitting home for 18 to 20 months, learning how to scroll TikTok, and you want to get in their faces and do some fun stuff. And if you do search fire prevention and fire safety on TikTok, you will come up with lots of resources, videos, and presentation style quick hits. Learn from the masters, and I am not one of them, so I love to watch them, but not my forte. Shannon, I can only see that there are more entries in the chat. I don't have it open because there's too much on my screen. Are there questions?
Yeah, let me just scroll back here. There was a couple and some conversations going back and forth. So someone was asking about being able to insert your department logo on the NFPA sheets, saying that seems to be difficult to do, and is there any suggestions? Someone commented saying that they had one of their younger tech-savvy members work on it, and they were able to make it happen. So I don't know if you have any tips in terms of how to get the logos on those information sheets from NFPA or not. And the other comment in here was, I found the 1-minute introduction video does not play properly on the FPW site. The background music plays, but you can't hear her speaking. Just wondering if anybody else has had that happen.
Okay, the video, thank you for letting me know. I haven't played it in a couple of weeks, so I will check on that. Not unusual with the depth of things we have on the site. So if nobody reports it, we don't find out, so I'll check on that. Okay, not playing, thank you very much. And on the logos, so all of our tip sheets have room for the logos. The Fire Prevention Week material technically does not, and because it's all copyrighted and trademarked, we ask you not to alter it, right? Especially the logo, which you'll see in a minute, especially not the logo. So I encourage you to sort of make supplementary materials that would go with it, or if it's posted, on your social, we know it's you and we know it's your department, but yeah, that's one of those things that I wish I had more control over, because I completely understand that it would be helpful to you. And I don't have any technical suggestions because I can't give them to you, because technically I can't encourage you to alter those materials. So the Fire Prevention Week materials specifically, no. The regular tip sheets, yes, there's a spot at the bottom to insert your logo and your contact information. We do tell our graphics people this all the time. So we, being me and Meredith and Kelly, the three sort of outreach and advocacy and people who are in the field, how important it is that we make that available to you. And you can see where we are. So thank you for asking. I will fix the video, and I know that that is a bit of a sticky point. So, however, that said, on these items, which are the promotional posters, or call them what you will, if for an event or activity you may be having, there's all kinds of space. So these are fillable PDFs where you can insert the name of your department, what you're doing, even if it's a virtual event, right? Your date and your address and whatnot. So we've made those specifically for that reason. Okay, so, and obviously they're available in English and French. Okay. And we've got the social media cards that have been very popular the last couple of years, and you saw a couple of these already, and they are optimized for Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, which means they're the right size or shape for all the platforms. A couple things about these. So there is no space here to put in your own logo, but it's going to be coming out under your department's handle anyway, so it would be clear that it's from your department. And we have not included, other than on this one, which obviously is simply promoting Fire Prevention Week, we don't include the date or the fact that it's Fire Prevention Week on the rest of them. We simply lead people or drive people to the Fire Prevention Week website, and you would have to include the URL because it's not clickable in the graphic itself, or you can drive people back to your website, and that's the reason that we don't, right? So we do ask that you not alter these. Lots of departments do, and you'll see in this second one, of course, that there is space to do that. So we're not going to report you if you do, don't worry. And I'm not a social media cop, so I understand why and how that happens. Okay, so thank you. So for those of you in fire departments or at the municipality or in corporate communications, these are the social posts you can use on your platforms. They're great, they're all similar, and there's one for every day of Fire Prevention Week, of course, and they cover all aspects of the theme. So these are the ones you saw earlier. Right. Again, they're simple and they can be used anytime, not just during Fire Prevention Week. And I do like this one that encourages people to learn the sounds of the alarms and check the user guides online. We thought that was some good advice to give to folks. And the last two are the Be Like Bill, which people seemed to quite enjoy last year. So we've created them again. They're catchy and fairly simple and easy to follow and understand. Okay. We don't have a TikTok for you though. The theme posters, cards, pardon me, call them what you will. So these are the slogans and the logos and themes that are available for use on your websites, use in your social, in anything you print, in video, in anything else that you do, in English, obviously French and Spanish, and also in various sizes that will fit whatever you need. If you needed a larger file, if you wanted to put something on the side of a truck or something to that effect and needed a vector file, just let me know and we'll walk you through the process to get that. We just don't make them available and downloadable from the website because the artwork is created not internally, but externally. So we have to work with the designers to get those large files. So sorry about that, guys, because we are asked all the time about permission to use Sparky, we've indicated here right on that toolkit page what the rules and regulations are. And this is what I get most questions on during Fire Prevention Week. So again, we ask that you not alter the logo in any way, but that you use it often and wherever you like. So are there specific questions on that, you guys? Feel free. And, you know, I give all the feedback that I hear from you guys to NFPA. So feel free to do that. I'm happy to accept feedback in that regard. Shannon?
Question in the chat. Has there been any discussion around putting messaging out in other languages besides English or French or Spanish, I guess, especially for municipalities with diverse cultures and new Canadians?
Yeah, so we talk about it all the time, and some of our tip sheets and whatnot are available in several languages. The issue is capacity, and trying to do this for the, you know, not even dozens, but hundreds of languages that we that we know are among our populations is something that we just don't have the capacity to do. So if there were a need, for example, in Canada or in, Toronto, Mississauga, Brampton for a particular language, and I could guarantee to NFPA that there would be, umpteen downloads or hundreds of downloads or whatever it might be, then we could make a case. Other than that, it's a capacity issue for NFPA. So I appreciate it. What we can probably do is work with you to provide an original, like the graphic without the wording on it, and then have someone who is able to translate it at your end, put the text on it. I know that sounds complicated and convoluted, but it's all about driving revenue, right? So even though in public education, we're not a revenue generating resource other than for the Fire Prevention Week kits, here's the example. We translated much more into French last year than we did this year. And some of those resources I'm starting to talk like my American counterparts, resources, not resources. Some of those resources had very few downloads. So we weren't able to do some of those again this year, just capacity. We face the same issues and challenges that you guys do. But if we can show that there's demand, so one of my, my job slogans is to drive demand. If we can show that there's demand and I can show that it's worthwhile, then NFPA will consider it.
Okay. So, and I guess if someone did have a need for a material in a different language and we had the tools or resources to do that translation, would we reach out to, or could someone reach out to you to get kind of that graphic minus the text? Would that be the avenue for people to go through?
Yeah, that's what I would suggest. And we would have to see if NFPA would allow us to do that, but it's better than not trying. So I would be comfortable doing that.
Okay, perfect. I can see some stuff coming in the chats. Awesome, thank you. And Arabic would be useful. I know where I am here, we've got, we're in the GTA, so we've got a lot of multiculturalism, so that would be awesome for us as well.
Exactly, I agree. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Is that all for now, Shannon?
That is it in the chat as of right now.
Okay, thanks. Okay, great. So let's go to, okay, so if you scroll further down the toolkit page, so we're still on the toolkit page. If you scroll further down, a lot of people have missed this. This looks like a little cartoon, but it's actually just an image that represents the fact that we have the Sounds of Fire Safety MP3 on the site. So this is what it looks like, and you can download them, and they just download and come in as audio files that end up in your iTunes, right? So I will play them for you so you know what they're like, so you can determine if they're worthwhile for you to download. I think they are. We're kind of missing just a regular CO one, but at least we've got some. So this is the beep, obviously. Okay, so that's great, and it's nice and clear. This is the chirp. There's only one chirp, and it plays really quickly, so you would want to play it several times for your audience. Okay. That's exactly what it sounds like, and it's that quick. And I know, because if you've if you've had that happen, which Mr. Finnemore has not, very fortunately for him, and I know in my situations I've had not batteries, but mostly alarms that have died, and not necessarily at their end of life, but sometimes they just fail, and you send everyone in your family to go stand under your alarms to try to figure out which one it is. You got to stand there with your hands on your hips for the 30 seconds waiting for it to chirp, and then go, oh no, it's not this one, it's that one. So that's a great little resource. And then this one is the fire and the voice and the CO and the voice. And if you've ever had that voice wake you up in the middle of the night, you know that it's really good to play it for people so they can be warned and understand what it sounds like, and that kids will know what it is.
Fire, fire. Warning, carbon monoxide.
Okay, so they're easy to download from the site, and I think a great little resource for us all to have and use all the time. Except if you do have them in your iTunes and you're out walking or running, and you have your songs on shuffle, you'll hear the sound of the smoke alarm, and it will drive you nuts. So don't do that. All right, sorry. There you go. Thanks. Okay, so scrolling down further, we get to teach fire safety, which is a great, huge section at the bottom of the toolkit. And this is where you find all of the, obviously, activities and whatnot that you can use to build your programs and share with your audiences. So I pulled a bunch of resources that match the theme and have something to do with the theme, learn the sounds of fire safety. So pardon me, there's testing your alarms, there's tracing sheets on the beep, beep, beep. Sparky's safety message is beep, and circle the letters. So these are great for obviously kids who are probably grades 1 and 2 and up, 1, 2, 3. And in addition to that, the coloring sheet, which obviously could be used for any age group. And we did, again, the coloring sheet for adults. We found that it was really well used last year. Coloring is known to be a very effective calming activity, reduces anxiety. And if you're doing a presentation or you're doing something with a group of older adults, it's nice to hand this out and hand out some, we call them colored pencils. I'm from Nova Scotia, Ontario, pencil crayons, and allow everybody to do it while you're delivering your safety messages. And you can just even drop them off at various locations and have people hand them out. So we liked it. You do have to print them, but it's better than buying them from NFPA, right? You can certainly get cheaper printer costs. Shannon, I'm just looking, I can see the numbers are up in the chat. So if that's conversation, that's fine. But if you have questions, I'd far rather answer them as we go through.
Yeah, mostly chat. Rick says that the chirp is now engraved in his vocabulary.
Awesome, awesome. I think it's great that he doesn't live in the environments that I did, where I keep hearing them. They just keep failing on me, and it drives me nuts. But okay, thanks, Rick. Appreciate your sense of humor. Okay, and more. So Adventures with Sparky. We've talked about this before. We introduced a long time ago Flat Sparky, and then Flat Sparky came back. But because Flat Stanley, on which Flat Sparky is based, is of course copyrighted and trademarked, we don't call Flat Sparky, but this is Flat Sparky. So it's on the website in the toolkit under the Teach Fire Safety section, and you can offer this up. Kids can do all kinds of things with it. Families can, cut out, color, take pictures of Sparky wherever he goes. You can do a great contest online with that and have it relating to learning the sounds. Pardon me, have it related to learning the sounds of fire safety. You can ask people to record themselves testing the alarm and learning that sound. All kinds of things you could do. And Breen Dugans, who most of you know, who is one of our sort of NFPA champions and a fire and life safety educator at a fire department in North Carolina, and also a high school media teacher / librarian, just suggested some things here, posting to Flipgrid or Flip Hunt, which I've used a little bit, partnering with teachers to create these programs. Families can create safety checklists using Flat Sparky, and of course featuring on social media. So I stole that slide directly from Breen. And something that I really like is the Sparky Safety Hero Club certificate, also in that section, something that you could offer to schools, to daycares, to whatever groups in your community you would like. And then it just sort of is something that children can bring home to show, pardon me, to show that they've participated in some learning about fire safety. So I think it's cool. And you can print those up nicely on a nice printer with some great lettering and whatnot. So NFPA has done lesson plans for quite some time. These are the 3 that are specifically related to the theme. So smoke alarms are important. This is also in that same section. Smoke alarms are important. It walks you through teacher information. Teacher can be anybody. It can be a firefighter, can be a parent, can be you guys, responding to questions, and then the teaching points. So that's nice and quick and pulls everything together. 10-minute mini lesson on CO in the home. So, we are way ahead of our United States counterparts on CO. There are some states that require mandatory CO alarms, but very few. So we're a little bit ahead of them, and we are working with them to help them get to where we are and growing the understanding of the importance of CO. But this is obviously available to anybody and everybody. And then we have another 10-minute mini lesson on working smoke alarms save lives, and a little more explanation of escape planning and whatnot that goes with that one. So you can plan your whole fire prevention week around these mini lessons, and they sort of, again, match with the theme and give you easy ideas to execute. And just a reminder about those 2 tip sheets. I'll show you a couple more that go with the theme. These are the 2 that we saw earlier, right? So all of the new information in here, and for the deaf and hard of hearing there. And then the other ones that go directly with the theme, the smoke alarms at home. It's on the smoke alarm, it's on the tip sheets page. It's on the Fire Prevention Week page as well, the carbon monoxide one. And then this is the Canadian version of the carbon monoxide tip sheet, because this American one has some data. So we've made this a little more generic here and Canadianized it. And you can find this one. If you can't find it, let me know, but you can find this one at nfpa.org under public education and Canadian fire prevention materials. So I stuck that in there for you so you know it was there, because I know that you guys don't want to use the ones with the US data. Okay. Oh, there, see, the Canadian version. And a couple of others, that are relevant and go with the theme. A lot of you are in communities where you have condos, apartments, so that this tip sheet might work well for you. And the other is hotel and motel safety. If the alarm sounds, leave right away, closing all doors behind you. A lot of people don't know this. They tend to stay in their rooms, and until you get direction otherwise, the right thing to do is leave. So something that we always like to teach. Teaching special populations. Shannon, I'm just going to pause to grab some water. If there's anything in the chat, let me know.
So one question, and I don't know if you have the answer to this, what happened to the blue person, and maybe even Simon too?
Yeah, Simon is the blue person, exactly.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We're referencing him as that, the blue person. So he's still around, but he was very successful. I think that we've found that Sparky is more recognizable, and Simon may make a guest appearance, and Simon may be back in 2022, who knows, but things just worked a little bit better using the resources that people were familiar with and that we were familiar with. I think it's also, again, more capacity to design things that go around Simon, and a little more difficult to do so. So we took a risk, took a chance, tried to do something new and different, and here we are. How's that for a non-answer?
Sounds like a perfect non-answer, Laura.
Exactly. Thanks for asking, though. Yeah, you can still find Simon. All the videos and stuff with Simon are still on NFPA Kids YouTube channel and still on the websites. So, and you'll find some of the Simon resources even on the Fire Prevention Week website now, and also all over on Sparky.org and Sparky Schoolhouse. Okay, so was that it, Shannon? Sorry.
Yep, that's it so far.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. Good questions, you guys, challenging me. So teaching special populations, we do have some nice resources. This is not a new resource, but it works really well. And it's a bit of a story tree that approaches the lesson from an I perspective for people who are on the spectrum, or people who just react and respond better to a storytelling way of teaching. So I am by no means an expert in this. We do work in Canada. I work with the Autism Society. They've done a fair amount of work with the Autism Society in the United States, but we came to the realization that it's much better if we work with the groups so that they create the messaging they create the resources themselves, and we work with them and coach them on the messaging. So most of the associations and societies are aware of the EMAC and are aware of the messaging, and we are working with them to create the stories, but they're doing the work on the stories, which seems to work better. But anyway, this resource is there. It's just a card. It's just a bit of a poster, and can help you if you're teaching or involved with those types of groups. And then we talked a little bit earlier about different types of different languages. So we have tip sheets in all kinds of languages for smoke alarms in particular, and escape planning, but also in easy to read formats, so that people who are learning English, or for whom who have low English proficiency is the term, I believe, these tip sheets might work better. did do all kinds of test runs with these and have done over the years, and came to the conclusion that they do still need some text. So the text is at, I think, a grade 6 level, but simple text, and you can pretty much still get the understanding from the pictographs. So those are available, and there's links on the FPW site to those as well. And so that's just an example in English and French, and again, multiple languages for those types of things. And pardon me, more for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. This smoke alarm tip sheet has been around for a while. Again, all done in consultation with those groups and people who advocate for those groups, and reflective of the desk messaging document. And again, I know you've seen this a couple of times already, but I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to include it there, that tip sheet specifically for that group. And when you scroll further down on the site, you come to this section that describes a little bit more about people who are deaf or hard of hearing, and for older adults. And again, that same tip sheet. And this is a little bit of an explanation of a bed shaker alarm. I think this is actually from Kelly's house, or her grandma's house, her Mima, I think she calls her, down in South Carolina. So that you heard this play in the launch video earlier. So lots of resources. Okay, and stay tuned. We will have a new video in September. It is September now, so in late September. These are the new videos we've launched over the last couple of years. We did I Spy one last year. I think it was this one about hazards in the kitchen, because it was all about cooking last year. And this one will be I Hear or I Listen. So it should be out in the next couple of weeks. So check back, and it will be on the FPW page. And in the meantime, there's this video, which you can find on the Sparky site. Let's see if it's going to play.
Beep, beep, beep. Sound you should keep in your mind. Beep, beep, beep. Smoke alarms keep you from harm. Beep, beep, beep. The sound when the smoke, it's no joke. Beep, beep, beep. Awake or asleep or counting sheep. Break it down now. Beep, beep, beep. Hear the sound, get up, get down the stairs. Beep, beep, beep. Jump to your feet, or better yet, leap. Beep, beep, beep. Get out the door. Want to hear more? Beep, beep, beep. Beep, beep, beep. Let me hear you sing it. Beep, beep, beep. Let me hear you sing it. Beep, beep, beep. Let me hear you sing it. Beep, beep.
Okay, you get the message. So that's a really great video. It's a few years old, but much newer than some of our others. Goes really well with the theme and is suitable for, I'd say, preschool up to grade 6, even 7, 8, right? Gets the message across and gives a little break in your discussions or conversations, and you can play it on your social channels as well, because it's on YouTube, right? So easy to access. And then there's another one here that I am not going to play because it will get stuck in your head. See, I told you, it happens every time. Steve's songs about fire safety. This is Little Rosalie, I believe. Do not play. I'm not going to make it play because it'll drive you nuts, and it's a little bit long. But if you peruse the YouTube channel, you'll find others that are suitable for the theme, talking about the sounds of fire safety and the beeps. So it's going to start, and then I'll stop it. Okay. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to take you just to remind you about the EMAC, the Educational Messages Desk Reference, which you can download from nfpa.org and Educational Messages. There's messaging in the back for your preschool and kindergarten, and the easy to read messages are there too. So again, it's all this messaging, but at a different language level. And this is our new document that came out earlier this year. So it's updated with all kinds of new chapters, new sections, and updated messaging and expanded messaging on smoke alarms and carbon monoxide. So this is a document that we use all the time, and again, on which all of our messaging is based, and we hope that you all have it, carry it with you wherever you go. It's in my purse, it's in my backpack, it's on my desk, it's on my desktop. And you know, if you're asked about anything to do with any of these subjects, then the messaging is in here and you can speak confidently, accurately, and consistently about them. Okay, all right. These are the websites. You might want to take a snapshot of that, how you can navigate to Fire Prevention Week page. So there are several ways, plus, of course, sparky.org and sparkyschoolhouse.org. There's a ton of stuff, and it does take some time, admittedly, to go through it. So I just wanted to highlight, we've still got a couple of minutes, and so I just wanted to highlight a few of the things that you may not be familiar with because they're not on the Fire Prevention Week page, but they come in really handy depending on the groups that you're addressing. So one is the sparkyschoolhouse.org site, and it's got something called a digital backpack, and everything is in here that for you to do online learning, virtual lessons. So it says sparkyschoolhouse.org for teachers, but teachers is really anybody nowadays. So there are all kinds of resources. There are e-readers, and you can work with teachers to use these. There are e-readers, there are activities, just a shot here of Flat Sparky and the certificates. Another is choice boards, which teachers love. So teachers can go here. You can work with your teachers to develop a program if you can't get into the schools, even if you can get into the school, right? And you could focus it on the sounds of fire safety. There is a slideshow. This is fantastic. You can download it. It's already done. So rather than you having to create something, right? So learn about fire safety with Sparky the Fire Dog. Everything that you do for Fire Prevention Week doesn't have to be specifically about the theme. If it relates to the theme, that's great. And this very much does. And I'll just show you a couple of the slides. So they're attractive, they're bright, they're airy, they're easy to read, and teachers can use them, you know, guides, Girl Guides, brownies could use them, any kind of group for children, scouts, whatever it is. So easy to use, easy to read, easy to download, and completely free. Sparky.org is where all of the activities are. Apps, games, lots of stuff about fire trucks. There's tons of videos, all those earworm ones that get stuck in your head that I didn't want to play. So those are all there, as well as on the YouTube channel. And then you've probably ordered your kits already from wherever you order your kits. If you haven't, CanOp Store is the business arm of the Canadian Council of Fire Marshals and Fire Commissioners. We work directly with CanOp Store. They produce the Canadian, can't win, eh? Very sensitive mouse. They produce the Canadian versions of the kits. This is a French kit. This is the only place in Canada you can get the French kits if you're interested. And there's different sizes of kits available, and you can get the materials a la carte as well. So that's where you go, CanOp Store. And then just a few ideas. You guys were so great last year and came up with all kinds of things. So we brainstormed, a bunch of us, last week about trying to figure out some new things because you guys are so ahead of the curve on all of that. But here's just a few things, and these are just boring slides, but vaccination sites, we still very much have vaccination sites here in Ontario. So putting up some information or distributing information at those sites if you're able. Places of worship, which are open. So you could do the swag bags there for older adults with the coloring sheets. Take it to the streets, which was one of ours anyway. So kind of reverse station tours. I know that requires a lot of planning, and I know that it's more challenging in a career department to get, you know, trucks and personnel out for an evening to drive through a neighborhood. But, you know, they do it in Oakville here in the summer in the splash pads. So I'm sure it can be done during Fire Prevention Week. Universities, brews, which is coffee, not beer, with crews. You guys, we do that in Ontario regularly anyway, so continue that during Fire Prevention Week. Daycares, of course, and you can relate it all back to Learn Not to Burn, because all of the messages are the same as they are in Learn Not to Burn. So you can pull the lessons from the Learn Not to Burn books, which are on our website. The Canadian versions are not on our website, but the only difference really is the links in them, and the links in ours go to NFPA. The links in the Canadian versions go to the Fire Marshal's Public Fire Safety Council. And I think that some of those links are not working as they should be. So use the ones on our website just to be sure. Sign Wars. We are doing Sign Wars in Oakville for Fire Prevention Week. So that's Glenn Barwell. I'm not sure what he has planned, but that was highly successful in other regards during COVID. So I'm sure it will be. Piggyback on municipal virtual events. So council sessions are all televised, or most of them are anyway. So stick your messaging in there somehow. Ask for a couple of minutes at the beginning for all those people who tend to watch those proceedings. After school programs through Parks and Recreation. So you're partnering with your own municipality and do the chalk it up idea or contest. I thought that was a great idea. Library programs, of course. Sweet sounds of fire safety. So just a little play on words there. You could partner with your local bakery and do some contests about the sounds of fire safety. And then the prizes are sweets, right? Cookies with messages on them. And Pizza and Prevention, our Fire and Life Safety Educator of the Year from last year did this, and she partnered with a caterer and they created pizza kits, and people came and drove by to pick up their pizza kits. They had a big area where people could drive through, and they had people manning, just going through pylons and manning traffic and whatnot. But it was highly successful, and it enabled them to have some personal contact with people from far enough away, distanced and masked, that it all worked really well. So I know these things require a little bit more work, a little bit more creativity, and perhaps some more personnel, but we've all raised the bar, and we've all risen to the occasion over the last more than a year. So I'm very confident that we will do it again. Just two other quick things. Breen has said, all the resources work really well in a digital setting, and people have said, well, how do you do that? So if you're in your Google Classroom or whatever it is, or Google Slides, she's been able to take the resources and just plug them in and use them. So, you can have fun with your slides and have fun with your virtual programs, but still use the NFPA resources. So that's just an example. And if you don't know Bree Dugan and you're not familiar with her website, and I know that you guys, the OAFE, has embraced Breen and vice versa, this is her website. Take a picture, go there, spend some time there. She is way more technically skilled and inclined than many of us, and we have learned so much from her. And she's a very strong supporter and partner of NFPA, and we just love her. So she has way more to offer in that regard than we do. And lastly, just a really nice resource for everyone that talks about fire prevention, fire safety all year long. So this just gives you a bit of a calendar and a guide for creating some programming and some messaging. It's in the toolkit. You can print it and make it pretty, or have it live on your desktop, whichever you prefer. I just thought it was a nice resource and kind of a nice way to end things. Just a reminder that my email is funny. It's Canada CRR, Canada Community Risk Reduction at nfpa.org. So feel free to send notes and request links, to anything that you're having trouble finding. And as always, happy to answer any questions. And thank you very, very much to OAFE and Donna, Jillian, and Shannon for organizing. And that is it. We still have 5 minutes for questions.
So there's the chat option. You can put your question in the chat, or you can unmute and actually talk and ask a question that way as well. So just give it a few seconds.
So there was one question in the chat there. Laura, I don't know if you've got any suggestions for Sherry, but Sherry was looking for a storybook that's available in French. No Dragons for Tea is not, but I don't know if you've got any suggestions from your, New Brunswick counterparts, anything that they use.
I don't, but I will ask. I'm making notes. Okay. Yeah, and we don't have anything. NFPA doesn't have anything. We struggle to even find the books that are part of Learn Not to Burn now, because people either just put them online and they're not selling hard copies. So let me check into that, Sherry, and I will get back to you. It's a good question.
Yeah, I think a lot of municipalities would benefit from a French resource storybook as well. So.
Oh, Lee says it's available.
Oh, it is available.
Okay. Okay, so maybe Lee and Sherry, you guys can connect, or Lee, actually, if you can just send me a photo of the publisher, which is probably the same, then I will see where it's been published and if we can get it. Sorry, again, making notes. Thanks, Lee. Awesome. Okay, anything else, you guys? I know it's a ton to digest, right? But I just find that walking you through the website a little bit and walking you through the resources, well, then when you're thinking, okay, what are we going to do, or what do we have for this group? You go, oh yeah, we talked about this. Because if we don't, you won't find it, right? Because the site is pretty dense, in a good way, right?
And Laura, I know one of the questions that I saw in a chat on that lovely Facebook group was about a audio clip of a building fire alarm. It's not included in the sounds that are available on the NFPA website, and someone was asking if anybody had a good quality clip. Is that something that NFPA would potentially look at including as part of that sounds of fire safety?
Making a note. Yeah, I agree. It should certainly be there. So I will ask, and there has to be a way to do it. It has to be out there somewhere. So let's see what we can find. And then it's no problem to just add it to it and put it on the website. And I was a little bit disappointed that they didn't do that because, you know, if you look at your demographic and you look at who you're teaching in schools in particular, you know, and we talked a little bit about hotels. People don't know what the sound is and don't know what they're supposed to do. So let me look into that. Thank you for suggesting it.
Well, Laura, everyone's saying their thank yous in the chat. So on behalf of everyone, all municipalities that tuned in today, and on behalf of the OAFE, thank you so much for spending your time. I know during Fire Prevention Week, you are just running all over the place, but I think I can speak on behalf of everyone that the resources and the tip sheets and the information that you provided us was fantastic this morning. And I know that whether you're in your full planning stages and it's all been done, or you're thinking, okay, what on earth am I going to do for Fire Prevention Week? We can certainly take all that good resources and where to find everything and start our planning or enhance what it is that we've already planned. So thank you so much for that. And just as a reminder, the survey is in the chat. If you can just take a few minutes just to complete that, that would be greatly appreciated. And then afterwards, you can fill in the form for your certificate. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for your engagement. We appreciate all your messages, all the questions that Laura has taken, and I know for sure that you will get that answered quickly. So thanks everyone. Have a great Fire Prevention Week. Have a great Fire Prevention Month. And I know that, you know, as public educators, we're always watching each other on social media. So I know I'm looking forward to seeing all the great out-of-the-box, great innovation, TikTok movies, videos, and resources that everyone's going to be doing such a great job with over the next, I guess, probably about 6 weeks. So, so thanks everyone for joining us. And we'll see you again soon.